I love the music in the Silent Hill games. For Gates's latest record, I wrote lyrics to a song about this ritual that's in one of the Silent Hills. It's in the fourth one, called 21 Sacraments. And it's a ritual that's planned out by the main bad guy of the game. But the way it's told in the story is also kind of vague. You have to read letters to get the full lore of how it works. But I thought it was so cool when I was playing it, and now we have a song about it.
That's too cool.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well out there, and welcome to episode 16 of Conversations with Carswell. This time I sat down with Seth from Gates to Hell. We talked about the guitar a little, the drums a lot, how they maintain a consistent sound going room to room on tour, songwriting, and of course the earth-shattering idea of a Kingdom Hearts MMORPG that the world is not ready for. With that being said, here's Seth from Gates to Hell.
Seth, you are a guitarist, you are a drummer. Many people know you from your band Gates to Hell, but you are secretly on stage with some of the most exciting acts from Louisville over the whole time I've been a part of it. You've done so while being kind and compassionate to others all along the way. I think we've shared maybe one or two tours together way in the past when you were with Transgression, but I'm so glad that you took the time to be here today, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so first thing I had wondered is, which instrument did you start with first? What's the first one you picked up?
The first one I picked up was guitar. Yeah, guitar was when I was probably around 10, the first thing I was just attempting to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of just learned how to read tabs from there, and then just didn't stop.
Gotcha. Did you have a family member or anything that kind of played and had some experience, or were you kind of just an island in that way?
So my dad, he has been in bands since he was a teenager. And he still is in bands, but he sings. He doesn't play any instrument at all, really.
Oh, okay.
So he was into the idea of also learning instruments and stuff, but he didn't really know how to play. So I was kind of just by myself learning, but he was really stoked on it, but he couldn't really help with the guitar playing much.
Yeah. I'm sure there was some wisdom of just performance and being on stage that he was able to kind of hand down.
Oh,
to
yeah.
you well.
Yeah, definitely. He's been in bands, like I said, since he was a teenager, and I've seen him as I was growing up, playing shows and stuff, and I still will see him from time to time, and it's really cool. He's a great musician when it comes to singing, and a good performer.
And that's a hell of a hard thing to train, is your voice, because you can break a guitar, the intonation of a guitar can go wonky, past the point of repair, and you can kind of get a new one, as sad as that can be sometimes. But your voice, you really have to be careful. And we've seen that with touring musicians, who have done really pushed the boundaries of what's possible, have to get vocal surgery after a long time, and it's a really delicate balance that you have as a vocalist, and it's just, there's so much respect to people who do that and do it well and professionally on that level, because it's not just going up there and just singing your heart out. It's about breath control and about maintaining a really healthy balance between pushing yourself too far and making a great performance.
Oh yeah, it's something I've never done before, and just I don't know, I feel performing with any instrument can be straining, in a live setting. I feel guitar and bass are the least demanding of them. Drums comes next, and then vocals, I just personally can't see myself being a touring vocalist of any kind, but I've never tried, but it just seems so straining and demanding. And
Absolutely.
It's definitely something I think that takes practice from what I've seen, and pacing to make sure that, all is good.
And I imagine there's a unique kind of strain on people who are in heavier music, metal vocalists. I I've seen a few, they have just jars of honey just hanging around that they will just down like half like a bear of honey before a show. It's like
Oh
sometimes they're
yeah.
just like when they're really struggling, they need it.
Yeah. The more that Gates to Hell started to tour, like over time, because Ryan was like relatively new to being a vocalist whenever the band originally started, he definitely like, I think saw the strain that was coming in like from doing that, and he ended up like, looking into how, vocalists on tour take care of themselves really, and he's big on like the throat coat tea and
Oh,
like a bunch
yeah.
of honey, and seems like a pretty common thing that's really helpful.
Yeah. If that company, I think Celeste, stopped making every other flavor, like the throat coat brand would just keep them going forever, because every vocalist I know swears by them, and I swear by them too. Like the throat coat is like really really great, like
Yeah.
for straining vocals.
Yeah, it seems pretty essential for a lot of touring vocalists.
Yeah, I think we'd be lost if they suddenly just like stopped making it. Be like, what do we do? Like,
Oh, yeah.
actually. So how soon after guitar did you pick up the next instrument? And was it drums, or was it, say, like a different type of instrument?
I believe technically it was bass, but that just kind of stemmed from what I knew playing guitar. I don't think like, I don't know. I definitely played bass a lot as a kid, but it was more so just like, I don't know, playing guitar shit on a bass. It wasn't like, specifically like I was learning unique bass playing tactics and like stuff like that. So I think drums was what I really switched over to after guitar.
Gotcha. What inspired that switch over? Was it like a necessity of we need a drummer, or was it like, oh, I always wanted to do this. Let's do this.
I really didn't have a desire to play drums at all, and I was like maybe 13 or so, and the drummer of my dad's band at the time was just like, hey, like I have an extra kit if you ever want to like just mess around with it, like you're free to have it if you want.
Mhm.
So he like gave me this kit, and it was no hardware, just the shells and a couple sticks, and like I would just play along to songs from my stereo, just like hitting the kick drum with a stick and hitting the snare. And I was like, oh, this is like kind of dope. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to do this. And I also found that it was like the easiest thing to learn from like listening to music.
Yeah.
Like it was the most like definite thing I could hear in a mix, like, so I could listen to a song and be like, okay, I'll sit down and like study this for a little and then try to play it on drums, and then started getting the necessities for like a true drum kit, I guess.
Mhm.
And then just kept playing from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm like learning right now, and I love that I can put on just like, I'll like maybe put on a John Mayer record to start. It's like, let's listen to somebody who's just, seemingly simple, but the complexity comes from how in the pocket they are, and just like try to keep up, and then like suddenly try to up the tempo with different genres. And it's just super fun to learn by example, just like having it play in your ear, where as compared to like guitar, there's like so many different nuances and stuff. Like if just excluding pedals and effects, like there's just certain ways of playing, certain methods of playing that you're just like, the first time when I was a kid I heard like a sweep pick, I was like, I have no idea like how to even approach doing that. My gosh, I need to look
Yeah.
up a YouTube video for that.
I
Where
still have no idea.
yeah, same. Yeah, like that is ridiculous. But the drums, like there's the ingredients seem to be all there when you're listening.
Yeah.
There's not usually like a mysterious like, wait, what was that? Unless you're like listening to like a Neil Peart or something that has like custom made like toms that you're like, I have no idea what I just heard. Or
Yeah.
certain symbols.
I mean, when you're like listening to songs and like, thinking about them and I guess studying them long enough, you can kind of tell certain things. Like you're right, there's a lot more components like learning by ear with guitar. Like if it's in like a drop or a standard tuning,
Oh my gosh,
the
tuning.
like tons of different tunings it could even be in to begin with. And like I feel like you can pick up if you listen, enough, like when they're hitting an open, because it sounds like slightly different, and from there like determine like tunings and stuff. But it takes a lot more work to do that than to listen to a song and be like, okay, I hear the kick drum and the snare and stuff.
Especially when you can reach that note by all these different means on a scale.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, that's the note that they played, but really they played it down tuned on a totally different string so that they can make like the shape that you're actually going for on the neck. But at the time you're like, oh, that's the note. So then you try to build from that, and your root note location is incorrect, and you end up making a hilarious looking chord. And you're like, is this what they meant to do?
And also like, even if the recording quality is bad, you can typically make out drums still, at least the basics. But with guitar, like, yeah, you can make out the note, but if the quality's not there, there's so many different ways you
minus quality, plus lots of distortion, maybe a bunch of delay. I remember when the first time I heard like the Edge play on like these old records, I was like, whoa, what is going on? Like it's just this wave, like this like of water just like washing over you endlessly, and it won't like cease. And I was like, what is going on? And I learned that he, like, from that amazing documentary It Might Get Loud about the guitar. If you haven't seen it, you have to. It's amazing.
I have not seen that. I really like The Edge though, and pretty big U2 fan. Is he like the center of that documentary, or?
So there's three people. It's Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and U2, Edge from U2, and Jack White. And they're supposed to represent generations of their generation of guitars. And they just get together in a room and just like talk about the guitar. And then in separate points, they go back to where they learned their instrument and like where they started creating music in just unique places from their life. And it's just cool. Really, really cool to see. It was really fascinating to watch like the way the room changed, and like how these two kind of cocky guitarists like kind of changed completely when Jimmy Page walked into the room. They were like, and like he just started playing some riffs for them, and they were just like, whoa, this is not real right now. Like everything from their lives, just all their experience and ego melted away.
That sounds
in this really cool way.
That sounds like a good watch for sure.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, it's all about the guitar. But yeah, and before we move away from it, how do you approach like tuning drums? Because everybody does it differently.
I'm not good at tuning drums. Not like, I don't know. I can make them sound not bad, but
that's a good place to start.
Yeah, no, the snare, I typically will just crank, which some people hate and some people like, but I mean, I think it sounds fine typically when I have mine cranked pretty high. The toms, like, I don't want them to be like wavy, I guess, like a drawn out sound that kind of like,
that resonant.
But I don't want them too high either. And I typically don't use moon gels just because I don't ever buy them. I don't know, but I feel like there's a sweet spot where it's just kind of like right in the middle. I typically keep them tuned pretty low, but not where they're dead and not where they're like, really long sustain and like kind of wavy. I don't know. I feel like they sound all right. They sound not bad. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought of that, but I mean, of course, you want the resonance and sustain to be minimal because of just the higher tempo that you're playing at.
Yeah.
It'll kind of start, washing over the next note and over the next note, and it'll get kind of grouped up and crowded, eventually.
But also like, I really like them low enough because a lot of like, I guess, like the bands I had played in, or like even like Gates to Hell and pretty much everything, I guess, just heavy music related, the toms syncing up to heavy guitar parts just doesn't hit the same if they're tuned too high. Just sounds kind of goofy a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like big toms tuned pretty low.
Big toms tuned low.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's probably hard to maintain that low resonance when they're tuned lower.
Yeah, I guess like you kind of just have to, you know, keep adjusting them each like set or session you're playing with.
Yeah.
You know, just so it like stays in the sweet spot. Like you can't just leave it and expect it to just like hold that spot forever.
Yeah. And it's different when on stage versus the recording studio, because I was in we were recording drums in here just a few days ago, and the drummer who was they had just replaced all their heads, and they were just putting up a tiny bit of painter's tape at the bottom of their resident head on the floor tom, hitting it and then putting a little bit more tape, hitting it, and then just finding the exact frequency that was good with them. And like sometimes you do that, you need to do that.
Yeah.
But like in a live setting, you know, if it's just like this is the house kit, you know, you're going to work with what we work with. But so it's how is that like chemistry between like there's no like house guitar, there's no house like these other instruments that, you know, come with being a band. Like it is, drums has this unique kind of place where you can you bring breakables only, you know, like sure, like you could kind of compare it to like, oh, I'm not using my speaker cabinet, but there's only so much I feel like that adds, you know. If you're a bassist, that's more so. If like the house thing is like a little subwoofer and you're used to an 810, then maybe, you know, you're gonna, you know, have less of a tone true to you. But like, how do you usually approach that, like house kit versus like bringing your own kind of thing?
For me personally, I'll always use a house kit just because I hate hauling around drums.
That is another thing.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. For a long time, I was like, I don't know, would always play on like house hardware that was really bad. That was like the main thing. So I'm just like, well, bringing hardware is not nearly as much of a strain as to like bringing a whole kit. So a lot of times I'll just bring hardware just in case I need something, but I will always use a house kit for stuff.
Yeah, sometimes that clutch is not clutching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My setup is also not like anything super special, and like I don't know. I usually just have like one floor tom, one rack tom, snare, kick, and then 2 crashes, ride, china, hi-hats, and like I could do without one of any of those, which like a lot of times when you show up and like are relying on a house kit, it's not your like exact setup, but I don't know. Nothing I play is too technical, so that's like never been a huge issue, I guess.
Yeah, it's good that you don't need to, you know, require a drum setup that you need to be like airlifted into or dropped into kind of situation. You know, just learn to absolutely work with just what to expect at any venue.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was the first genre of music that made you fall in love with music? Like what was that genre that first just pulled you in to music in general?
It was definitely rock. Just growing up with my dad playing in bands, I would hear his songs and like the songs that he was covering with his bands, and just that really put me on to a lot of different like early 2000s and like 90s rock bands.
Oh, nice.
My favorite growing up like as a young kid was Queen, and that was like the music gateway overall, I feel like, for me. But then, yeah, from there, just stuff that stemmed from songs my dad was playing pretty much.
Gotcha. So what bridged that path between like those classic songs to like heavier music, like metal?
So like my dad was very into stuff like Metallica and like heavier 90s bands like Pantera
Mm,
and stuff like that. And so I always really liked bands like that. Um, Kind of on my own, I guess, when I was going into middle school, I just bought a Slipknot CD at the mall one day because
nice.
I thought that they looked really cool. But I didn't really know anything about them and I had never heard any song. And it was the self-titled record that I had bought.
Oh wow.
So I like that like vocal style as far as metal goes was like completely new to me. And the first time I heard it, I didn't really love it. I was like, this is like interesting, but like I just could not stop listening to it.
Hmm.
And over time, it just like really grew on me. And that kind of opened up the like world to heavy metal.
Yeah, I think I I'm trying to think back to kind of my introduction to it, and I feel like I had the same. I I went to a friend's family's house a lot, and like they had all this musical influence. Where at home it was like maybe U2 and Talking Heads, and that's it. And like those are two great ones. But
Hmm.
like this one, it's like you gotta listen to Jackson Brown and Bob Dylan, and like you gotta and all these like classic songwriters. And I think the first time I heard like I had heard like Metallica, but when something I heard was like extreme, it was like that Slipknot. But I think it was the one of the first Korn records that are just like they're just so aggro and like
Hmm.
so visceral in the way that they were portraying themselves. I was like, I was in middle school as well, and it was like "See You on the Other Side" was the record, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I at first like I don't know about this, but I know that it made me feel like uncomfortable, but I also liked it, and I didn't understand that part of myself that liked it. That just kept, but I kept coming back to it and coming back to it until
Yeah.
it was like now these parts that I was like kind of cringe when I heard them. I was like kind of hearing the guitar and hearing the drums more than I was hearing the wild vocals that were like on the surface level of like the marketing or like the writing of that band, like perhaps.
Yeah.
So I which is what you usually see as somebody from the outside looking in to that
Hmm.
genre. And going off of that, people usually look at metal and hardcore as like this thing that emanates like anger and hatred and negativity. Like, how would you go about convincing somebody that it's actually about community and support?
I guess I would really just talk about like my experiences with it. And just like how much the live aspect of it really, influences that.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. It definitely is misunderstood by a lot of people. Like, you just using the words like you would hear something and it was like scary to you.
Mhm.
Like, whenever I was getting into heavier stuff, like I said, Slipknot was kind of my gateway, but my dad at the time had a friend at work who would give me these records and he gave me like 6 Feet Under records and
Mhm.
Slayer records and like Cannibal Corpse. And I would listen to it and genuinely be like, this is too much for me.
Mhm.
Cause at the time I was like just starting to fuck with Slipknot and I didn't understand it at all. I don't know. And then the more I delve into the genre growing up and stuff, it all kind of came back around.
Mhm.
But I remember hearing 6 Feet Under for the first time when I was like 13 or so and just genuinely being like, dang, these guys are messed up and these guys kill people and stuff like that. But it's obviously not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I would absolutely point to the community aspect of it. Like this is a, you know, with I saw it first and foremost at like Spinelli's downtown on 5th and Jefferson with Brian Puckett and Little Heart Records, and how like that created this community for people who felt like outcasts and like they had a family in that place. And like when I was young, instead of like having all these like we have all these negative emotions from like, just being that age, but also just through your life experiences. And to get them out, usually those negative and strong negative emotions go either towards yourself, like inward, or they go out to hurt others. But through this genre of music, you can get it out in this live setting. You can get it out through music. It's like becomes this conduit of your emotions. Like whether you're writing it, performing it, it's therapeutic just to experience it and for it to be shown in its face. Like this is how we're feeling. This is how that's like where I think, hardcore comes in but the genre of metal, obviously is the reason why any of that exists. And like it creates these really strong and bonded communities that support each other for often like for the rest of their lives. So I think it's really beautiful how it does that community wise.
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely have seen like very similar things when I first started going to shows, and like, I don't know, I can see how it's misunderstood to people on the outside, not, knowing anything about it, because on the outside it is inherently like violent sounding. People who see it from the outside definitely just see violence, but it's not necessarily the true case with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting. Like I think people, and that's obviously becoming more and more known as time goes on. Like you just see how metal is like become more and more accepted over time. Where of course it, went from the comedic and humorous like devil's music to now just something that's like, oh yeah, that's the extreme genre, and instead of something that's inherently bad, because you see like some real sweethearts from that scene who just like are some of the kindest people you've met. It's just like this genre is like the one they've chosen for whatever reason, but oftentimes I find a lot of therapeutic benefit from it.
Yeah, definitely.
So when did Gates to Hell come together, and what drew you specifically to that project?
So Gates to Hell started in 2019, and it was originally just me, and I wanted to pretty much just write a demo with me playing guitar, because at the time I had never played guitar in a band. Everything that I was really doing was just drums. And at the time I was like really into Waking the Cadaver and Enemy Mind, and those bands really made me want to just write guitar music pretty much. And so I just unplugged, wrote the like first Gates to Hell demo in my apartment, just like no drums or anything, and kind of structured them out, and went to my friend Aaron's house and just recorded the demo, because I wanted to create something and I wanted to put it out and stuff. And I had sent it to Ryan, who sings, and I was like, hey, would you want to like try to play some shows with this at some point? Like I'm trying to get a lineup together that, we could play some shows here and there. Would you want to play bass? And he was like, yeah, I definitely could, but like I haven't sang for a band in like a long time, and I would love to try to give that a shot. And so me and him like found a couple other people. Lake was playing drums at the time. And then Robbie was playing bass, and we would just play just a few local shows here and there. Like we didn't go out of town or anything really in 2019. So yeah, we just played songs off of that demo, and then over COVID, nothing really was going on. So wasn't really something that we focused on much. But during that time, I was just writing riffs and like trying to just have things in the pocket ready for whatever. And when it seemed like shows were starting to come back, we really wanted to kind of send it with the band and just like, plan some releases and just kind of hit the road and go out as much as we could.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so you just started touring as much as possible, kind of just playing as many shows.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was very cool. Because a lot of us hadn't been to a lot of the areas. And like, the lineup had changed. Like, going through like periods where you're like, a band just playing shows like in town here and there, and then trying to, do like month-long tours frequently.
Yeah.
Like it was a transition for sure for everybody. But then, the lineup we have right now is really solid, and we've all played like, I don't know, countless amounts of shows together. But yeah, it's been really fun, and we just kind of hit the road, and I guess hadn't really stopped since after COVID.
Gotcha. How would you describe how the evolution of that Gates to Hell sound started from that first demo to where the writing's at now? Like as far as influence wise, or as far as the evolution in general?
I think it definitely started really like, I want to say like old beat down forward. Like it while like the logo was like a metal logo, and it definitely could be called a metal band, it was to me just like a heavy hardcore / beatdown kind of band. But over time, like, just like with the lineup that we have and like our collective influences with different metal bands and stuff have played a role into writing. There's a lot more like, just leads on the record that like the newest record has leads on it and like harmonies and things that I definitely would have never thought about writing in a Gates to Hell song in 2019. So definitely with, everybody's input, not just my own, it's really came together to be what it is.
That's awesome. Yeah. And just, it's really cool how that kind of chemistry can happen where you have these outside influences where you're not sure how it would vibe with it. But then when it clicks, it's like, oh, of course. Sometimes you're like, oh, I would have never approached it from that angle. And that's where everybody's unique experience comes into play.
Yeah,
it's really cool. So what was your first guitar, and do you still have it?
My first guitar was given to me from my dad, and the brand was Dixon, and it was like an Explorer style guitar, and it was like apple red, and it was short scale. It was awesome. It had one pickup, one volume knob, and I do still have it. It is just at home, at my parents' home, but it is still mine technically. And yeah, it was really cool. Now that I think about it, I'd love to get that back and fix it up.
Yeah. I thankfully still have like my first guitar, but over time when you play guitar so hard, it's like it's hard to come to terms with maybe like a guitar has like a lifespan of like how long it can be before that. Just like the neck is like I've had one guitar for so many years. Like the guy who I usually go to, he's just like, man, like I can only the intonation's only going to stay for so long on this neck. It's like either replace the neck or you look at kind of hanging it up.
Yeah,
it's like that's but same with drums. Especially mainly wooden drums, they expand, they warp over time, and you get inconsistent sound, and eventually they get warped to you hear crazy resonant tones that you just can't really you can't really dampen.
Yeah, definitely. Like I don't think I would be able to restore that first guitar to like a good playable condition, but it would be cool to at least make look nice and
Yeah.
hang up on a wall or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best you can do to honor that guitar and like kind of those, because those, you know, you learned on it. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to hold on to it.
Definitely.
So what is the current guitar that you favor for live performance, and does it differ from the guitar you like when you are creating riffs, like just when you're writing?
My favorite is the same for both, like live performance and writing, and it's an ESP LTD SN some number. It's an SN model. But it one active Fishman pickup, one knob. It's just like a very sleek black guitar with like a wood grain finish. It's set up perfectly, and I've never had like really any issue with it. So it's just been my go-to for everything for like 2 years now.
Nice. Yeah. The LTD I have that I main play with any like heavy genre has also just been a workhorse, just like lasted like so long. And like where other guitars need maintenance over time, it's kind of held out longer or like done well. When I was more neglectful towards it, it kind of held out for me.
Yeah, just seeing like the 2 LTDs that I've toured with for like I think around 2 solid years now, like they've been in a trailer in like 100-degree heat too on the same tour, being in like freezing. Cold temperatures. They've like flown back and forth, like they're just in perfect shape still for the most part. Like minor electronic things happen with any guitar that's like used frequently, but like structurally they're just like really good guitars.
Yeah, I feel like with these high impact parts like the input jack, there's got to be an innovation one day that we're still getting up the hill right now to innovating the electric guitar for that input jack to last longer,
Yeah.
Or like do something maybe a bit different with the core design.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's like a patent or something going on where like that design can easily be changed or modified in certain ways, but like I could see us getting better at like some fundamental parts of the electric guitar.
Yeah, I would like to hope so. It would be nice.
Yeah. Is there any that come to mind for you? Like just things you're like, that could be a little bit better. I feel like we could do better on that.
Yeah, we could do better on instrument cables. Any kind of cables in general. Like, I don't know, you always see when you're buying like certain cables and stuff, it's like lifetime guarantee, which like I can't say I've ever like kept those to be like, okay, when this goes bad, I'm gonna like call the company and like try to get one. But like cables just always go bad, and like for no good reason a lot of the times. Like even if you're trying to preserve them well, they'll have little weird issues, and they're not necessarily easy to predict, when they're gonna go bad. So it's kind of just an uncertainty you have to be okay with, unless you're wanting to swap cables like every show or something. Like, you just never know when something's going to happen with them.
Or just go wireless, which for me personally, I'm always worried about latency. Like, will there be latency? I've never tried it before. It looks fun, but I worry, is there tone lost at all? But if everything's so digital these days. But I agree. Like we have undersea cables that, sit at the bottom of the ocean and they're set for like thousands of years. Like, like we got the technology. We can move that towards guitar equipment, but I get that there always be like cheaper cables, and like we can't always buy Mogami cables, but like those seem to be just the ones that last a good amount of time.
Yeah.
But that's just we should be able to find more sustainable, cheaper materials to make really high quality guitar cables with. But it might be because it's a revolving door market, where they know that you're going to use them for like 6 months, and then they hope 6 months, but usually average lifespan I imagine is like 3 years, and that cable's gone. and they kind of depend on that. And or because if they sold you a buy it for life guitar cable, then they'll never see you again.
I mean, yeah, that is very true. Yeah, even we've been wireless for a while now. Like everyone in Gates to Hell has a wireless guitar. What is it called? Like a receiver. I guess.
The receiver on the guitar.
And like one thing with that is like there's no latency.
That's awesome.
It's been great, the one that we've used, but there is a like specific cable you have to have. It's got the 1/4 inch that goes in your guitar, but what goes into the receiver is a special end. So when that cable goes bad, typically doesn't even short out. You can't like tell when it's going bad.
Not easy to tell.
One day it's just not going to be working. And if you don't have a backup,
usually have backpacks or like people, maybe spare packs or something. But
yeah. And they're kind of expensive. Like cable maybe like a foot long or something, if that, like $50-ish. And it's just like, I don't know. I do have a backup just in case. But like on this most recent tour, Dustin, who plays bass for Gates to Hell, his rig like wasn't working. He's like, I cannot figure out what the deal is. I think something's wrong with my wireless. And the last thing he thought was that wireless cable was messed up, and that was the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
And he didn't have a backup, so it's just,
dang.
not something, it's just another thing to think about going bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep a backup of.
And that cable, the 1/4 inch cable, has like decades and decades and decades of design innovation because it is such a high impact like cable. Like the early ones are like they're so flimsy, and you could go like this to like the end and it would just break it. But like people realize, especially when I think it's probably a lot to do with telephone operators back in the day. They would use patch cables, 1/4 inch cables all day to patch phone calls through. And they had to have like gone through so many that maybe like a new design was made eventually, and that kind of translated to guitar equipment later on.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But yeah, that's just another cable. Yeah, you're right, that you have to worry about. That's like not really, it doesn't have that history of use, so it's just gonna go, and that is so scary. Like you gave me kind of the heebie-jeebies when you're like, it's gonna go out. It's everybody goes on stage and you roll the dice,
dude. It's there's like, I am maybe the worst just about being paranoid about like something going wrong, and like when you think of just like a live band, like, and all the components going into it, like there really is so much that could go wrong, and so I try to be as prepared as possible with like keeping backups of like everything possible, changing strings like as frequently as I can, where I feel like it's necessary at least. And like, I don't know, sometimes though, when you're that prepared and then something else happens, you genuinely have no idea what to do. Just always something. And like, I know a lot of problems come from like tube amps, which we all still use, and I see so many people using digital setups, and I really am into the idea, but I've came to know so much about how to mess with tube amps that like if I did have a digital rig like a Quad Cortex or like a Kemper, and something did go wrong, I would genuinely have no idea what to do.
You wouldn't know where to begin, where with a tube, you're like, I can go through the step by step of like what to check, a troubleshooting process.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm very interested in like one day having a digital setup, but I just know nothing about it. So like, I don't know. It's cool. You could fly to Europe with like an amp and your whole rig on a pedal board going digital. But like, if you got over there and something was messed up, I would have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
So
you can dial in like just with the simple stuff. Like for when I tour as a bassist, I use a Sans amp, and I just get this consistent tone through all this different equipment. And it's really beneficial. And every time a sound guy sees a Sans amp, they're always like, "Oh, sweet! Can I just plug in to the direct into that?" And they're like,
From the
from
pedal?
the pedal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know how frequently those like the outputs from the pedal were used for like front of house
Yeah,
people, but that's really cool.
If the guy knows the pedal, they usually like plugging into it.
That's crazy.
So
That's so cool.
and it is really cool to get your direct tone,
Yeah.
right through the house PA.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as a bassist, where sometimes like the house, like the speaker cabinet might just be like a smaller like subwoofer kind of guy.
Yeah.
But you can't always expect an 810. It's usually are very thankful when you see an 810. You're just like, oh my gosh, who brought this? Thank you.
Yeah.
Who brought the refrigerator here?
Yeah. They're not fun to haul around.
No,
for sure.
no, absolutely not. The one I have stays in the basement usually, unless we really need it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's fair.
yeah.
The one that Dustin has right now has a live-in road case on it. So it's very useful to not get it banged up and stuff, but it is just double the weight, and it's also wider because
of the case.
yeah.
A hard case for the 810?
Yes, hard case for the 810. It's got casters on the back. So is what we do when we do have to bring it in is like, bring it out of the trailer and then just stack all of our stuff on top and like roll it in.
Wow. Yeah.
But it is a pain for sure.
Gosh. I mean, I see like 810s, like certain like pedals, like a Boss pedal. I feel like those will be here long after we're gone. Like you can pour water on them. They can go, just whatever like conditions. Those pedals seem to just last forever.
Yeah.
And like certain pedal brands are like that. But certain other ones are more fragile. But like moving on to that, do you find yourself more of I find my sound through my in-amp settings, or I like to find my sound through the pedal board?
Definitely just the amp settings for me.
Yeah.
I feel like any amp I've played in, I could get the tone I want just plugging straight into it. The only thing I guess I rely on live pedal wise is the noise gate, just because of like with the volume, it feeds back so much. But yeah, all of my tone has always came from the amp. And then I'll have like a tube screamer just as a boost to give it like slight extra crunch and like kick, I guess. But if I didn't have that, it would still be fine for sure.
The underdogs, like the unsung heroes of the pedal board, are the tuner and the noise gate.
Yeah.
Like those, I mean, I'd be nothing without those two, especially the tuner. But I mean, the noise gate just makes the world of difference. It's just nice to let go and just hear nothing. You're like, this is so nice.
Yeah, it's I love like when the noise gate is just dialed in perfectly.
Yeah.
I've had so many different kinds, and the ISP decimator is like the only one that I'll probably like keep buying just because it's easy to dial in, and like with a lot of the other noise gates, I can never get it to where it's like as high gain as I play, where you can just have like no ring at all when you're done playing a note. Like I feel like there's always some kind of like fading out of the signal. But the decimator is just like hard cut. But the unfortunate thing about those is that somehow like I go through them frequently, like electronic issues with them, I guess, or just them being shaken around in the trailer. Like sometimes the gate will be like, down really low and you're not getting signal through it, and you just kind of have to hit it on the ground a couple times and then it's fine.
One of those, like an old TV.
Yeah. Wow. It's weird, but it is the only gate that...
But it's the one that's got that sweet spot where it's not like, that dreaded where like you're ringing out and you're like, and you're like, oh no, like that's the dreaded sound you hear when it's like, it's like fades out fast.
Yeah.
So you found that one has the sweet spot, but unfortunately they don't have the build quality that you would desire for like that you'd see from other pedal companies. Perhaps.
Yeah. I wish that, the Boss NS2, like, I wish that I could dial in one of those, like, to sound as good as the Decimator does, because I know that would last so much longer, I feel like.
Yeah.
Also, I love the Decimator that I have, like, you can run into the effects loop, so there's, like, no hum from the amp at all. It's just dead silent.
That's
which
nice.
You can
That's
do
super
with
nice.
You can do with the NS2 as well, but it's just harder to dial in like a super, super high gain tone with the NS2.
Right. And yes, and if you're switching like from like any kind of high gain to not so high gain, then I imagine that adds a whole different, because there's like different volumes that you're jumping in between.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to jump from different noise gates.
That would have to be like, God, can't even begin to think about that.
Yeah, but then like I know like every guitarist I've talked to and know, and like myself, you've watched hours and hours of gear rundown videos, the rig rundowns.
Yeah.
And eventually at the very top, it becomes this song is this button.
Yeah.
And this song is this button.
Yeah.
And you really it gets so complex that it goes back to simplicity. Again.
That is very true.
And so it's fun to see. I mean, just those videos are so great because you learn something usually like from a really excited guitar tech. Like I learned like one from I think it was Slipknot's rig rundown, and they said that they take the speakers out of the cabinets because first they noticed that if they kept the mesh on, they would get less life out of the speaker. And the guitar tech figured it's because the speaker pushes air out towards the mesh pushes some back and gives some resistance. Mm-hmm. And that causes wear over the speaker because usually the speaker would like there to be no resistance. It can just, get the flow of sound outwards. But with the mesh there, it actually has a little resistance and you have some fighting back. So they took them off. They got more life out of them. They're like, great. But how can we get more life out of them? Like, is there something more we could do? And now they have this crazy, it's like a floating speaker. They like take like the whatever type of speaker they have and they'll just have it floating like with strings or something like in this giant, like they just take the cab out of the whole question. And like they essentially want to have just a floating speaker that's just being caught backstage. It's all backstage, crazy, contraptions that they're making back there.
Yeah.
But they say they get the most life out of a speaker that's pretty much just floating there.
That's
and
crazy.
Like the cab, the mesh, it all kind of takes out of life of the speaker. And that's like only something you would notice if you toured like 280 days out of the year.
I was going to say, yeah, that's like, I would never think about like wear from like speakers in the cabinet, but like when you're a band that has played as many shows as Slipknot and toured for that many years, I'm sure they have had to deal with it at some point.
They're like, this set of 412s only lasted 6 months or only 12 months instead of like when we took them off last time. And I'm sure they're like, this time around, let's just take the mesh out of all the speaker cabinets and see what happens. And
that's
like,
so cool.
This lasted way longer.
Yeah.
And they're like saved a lot of money that way, probably.
That is wild. That's very cool though.
Yeah. And just watching those gear run down, you just find these bits of wisdom and knowledge in places you wouldn't usually think. Cause usually you're looking at like, what are they really running back there?
Yeah.
Are they actually hooked up to like that whole wall of amps? Is that actually what they're running into? Or it's like, no, it's usually like giant wall of amps on stage and like there's just a combo amp. It's like with like a little microphone getting just lit. I've seen that before. And it's just super cool to see how people like really nail in their tone versus like what is displayed on stage just for like the fest or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like a lot when you're playing a setup like that relies on having like a really good front of house to mix you. Like we have never toured with a front of house with Gates to Hell, so like we typically will just have our amps turned up really loud just to where like if we were to walk out it would still sound good
Mm-hmm.
regardless
Still
of
sound
what is
huge.
coming through the PA really. So if they need to push more through the PA, they can. But like, you know, if we, whenever you're sound checking and a random sound guy is like, you need to turn all the way down, like you need to go down to 1, I'll boost you in the monitor. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. If I don't know the
I get that a
person
lot.
running front of house, I don't really trust that.
Yeah.
Just because there's just a chance it's going to sound horrible and nobody is going to hear the guitar, especially like if the PA is tiny and you're turned down way too low for, I don't know.
I understand the methodology,
Yeah.
but and I understand that those sound people who ask you to do that have probably had countless bands who don't know what they're doing really turn like all the way up and like just it
Yeah.
sounds terrible. So they've probably seen the turn it up like method fail over and over again. But it's hard to explain to someone. It's like, well, we did this a lot, and we kind of, and it also just turning down into like getting to like a almost recording studio vibe, like with your volume, is just it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel, it doesn't feel right for the live setting because like.
Yeah.
I understand like finding that sweet spot with recording where you're just like right on the edge, it's like where it starts breaking up, and you're like, oh, that's right where I want it. To where it's because like past a certain point in volume when in the recording studio, you're not adding too much. You're kind of maybe subtracting a tiny bit of fidelity when you're just going crazy with the volume.
Yeah. I'll never like argue with like the house people. Like I know that they are just doing their job more or less, but like I definitely will like if we are sound checking or something and I'm like, feeling weird because they're making us all turn down to like 1 in a giant room with like, just equipment that doesn't look like it would push what they're saying.
Yeah.
I'm always like, okay, I'm just gonna walk out while we're sound checking and listen to what we sound like. And if it sounds horrible, just have a conversation.
Gently
like, hey,
push.
before we play, let's just turn really loud and we'll be fine.
Gotcha.
And then the front of house from there will be like, oh, the amps are loud. I'll just kill this tiny bit of guitar I had in the front of house to begin with. And I don't know.
And you end up sounding good.
Yeah.
You're sounding better than that, at least.
Yeah. I guess just using your own judgment can be useful whenever you're in weird situations like that with a front of house.
That's a good little pocket of wisdom because that is like not discussed a lot of like what do you do when like you disagree with the sound person, but you're like you're not you love these people for what they do and you have respect for them. It's just sometimes it's it doesn't the ideologies don't mix well, but like it's good to kind of just you go along with it up until that point, and then you're just like, if it sounds just really, really rough, then just you got to turn up a little bit. They'll turn you down in the monitors, but you'll get to where you're going, like because like you are running tubes for a reason too. Like you get volume out of those.
Yeah, and like
major volume.
Every time I feel like that has happened where I'm like, all right, they're wanting us to turn down to like 1 or 2 and they're running us through these 2 like 12-inch PA speakers and I'm just like, okay, let's just get through the sound check, but when we start, turn up to what you normally would. At the end, when the house guy is up there taking the mics down, they're like, wow, that sounded really good.
That's awesome.
It's like,
Yep. Oh no, but then maybe you're teaching them that worked. Like they should do it with the next band. Oh, I did this one band and I told them to turn down to 1, and when the show started, oh my god, it sounded amazing. So you're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sure they understand when they saw the board light up like Christmas, like well, all like because they had it set to that certain volume that he understood what happened and why it sounded so good.
Yeah. And like obviously if you're touring with a front of house, it's completely different because you'd have your own guy who like knows your sound and knows like, but when you're not with somebody and have a different person each night, like it could be a good thing because a lot of times they know their room when that's the venue they work at. But sometimes also you're just like, where did this person come from? Like just, I remember one time we played this casino in somewhere in Ohio. I think it was Northfield, Ohio, and they didn't really have like metal shows come through, and it was on the Machine Head tour that we did, and it was like 5 minutes to doors, and I'm just like, we're waiting on like the house people to set the stuff up, and all the monitors are on the floor, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like set the stuff up, and I was like set the stuff on stage, and I was like, hey, are these our monitors? Like, I'm just gonna go on and play some, and they were like, sweetie, no, those are speakers. And I'm just like, all right, we're doomed.
Yeah.
Whenever we're in situations like that, I'm just like, how did this happen? Like,
Yeah.
how? But then sometimes you're somewhere and the front of house person is just amazing.
It's
like,
working miracles.
Yeah, straight up working miracles. But you just never know.
Absolutely. What is the like most ridiculous piece of gear, guitar, drums, just anything that you have seen while you're out on the road, or just in general? For me, I saw a concrete snare drum. A guy had poured his own shell, like, and because he had talked about the drums wear and warp over time. And also, it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And he said, it'll be the snare drum I use for the rest of my life. It sounds insanely cool. And he loved it. He loved talking about it and show it to me. But I was like, can I like pick it up to see like what it's like moving this thing?
How
Seth,
much? It weighed a lot?
It weighed so much.
Oh.
It was ridiculous. Like, imagine, the concrete block you put in front of the drum, the bass drum, but like times 3.
Did it sound good though?
It sounded awesome. He did a very good job molding it perfectly.
That's really cool. I've never heard of something like that.
A concrete snare drum will last you forever, and I bet it was tough to make, but it's tough to haul around, but very overall ridiculous like piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's crazy. I genuinely don't think I've seen anything as cool as that. Like, not that it's ridiculous piece of equipment, but the guitar player for Kubla Khan, he plays Jacksons, and whenever we toured with them, his Jackson guitars that he had are all a signature model for an old guitar player of Fear Factory, and they're very hard to get a hold of, like extremely rare. And I love that band, and that's like the only line of guitars that he played.
Really?
And seeing those in person, just being like, dang, like you have like all of those like editions of that guitar. It was just crazy.
The majority of the population of that guitar signature model. Because signatures, they don't make too many.
No, yeah. And it's like Jackson, like if you look into their like models and stuff, if you're trying to find like a Jackson design with one humbucker, one knob, and like no Floyd Rose bridge or anything like that, it's impossible.
And that's what made this guitar unique.
Yeah, that was like the one.
Wow.
And yeah.
So nobody who got a signature Jackson before had like kind of tried to copy that, but one day somebody might,
Yeah, no, and Jackson has also never had like, that I know of at least, just any models that are like that, like one humbucker, one knob, no Floyd Rose.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a gap in the Jackson market for those.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah, so that makes it even more sought after, that it's just this unique build that no one ever emulated again.
I'm sure like if somebody loved Jackson guitars and saw that, even if they had no idea who Fear Factory was or who Christian Walbers was, they would be like, damn, like I would love to have one of those guitars, because it's just not a model that Jackson has made anything like, really.
And it must there must be an ideology difference, because if Jackson has avoided that style, they must not identify with that kind of guitar make
Yeah.
as much. They must be like, that's not the way we do things.
Which
really.
is which is just weird to me kind of. I feel like that style is so cool cuz like so many artists that play Jacksons probably just use that pickup and just use a volume knob. So like that's how I am, and like I only will use like a bridge pickup and the volume knob, and I think it looks awesome just having those two. And I feel like a lot of people that play guitar think the same way. It's kind of crazy that, cause like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of metal players play Jackson and they have awesome looking guitars, but they don't have designs like that really.
Yeah.
It's just odd.
Yeah, I wonder if it is something with their ideology, that if they're just like, we don't make, obviously they don't like
Yeah.
it. But I wonder if it's something like that runs deep and they're like, no, we don't like doing that. But we made we made something special for that one time.
Yeah.
And then just suddenly made this like that line extremely sought after.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Maybe it didn't sell well. I'm not really sure.
Well,
But-
somebody bought them all, and the Kubla Khan guy did.
Yeah, that is true.
That is cool. Is there like a white whale piece of gear that you like look for? Have it like looking for like, oh, I've always wanted to see one of those or try to find one of those.
I don't think like specifically. I am always just in the market for like amps though, like in general. Like I try to like everywhere I go look on Facebook Marketplace and like look at used music stores for like some kind of amp to buy and like fix up. I don't own a bass amp at the moment and had been like doing a lot of research into like some older Fender models and really have been looking at getting a Fender M80 after I came across one. They're a really cool older bass amp that's a solid state, but it's massive, which it just looks so cool. It looks like the same size as like an Ampeg SVT, but I don't know. It just looks very sleek. I think it'd be cool to own
That's
one
awesome.
of those.
Yeah, I love just the look of some of the older model amplifiers, just like solid state and stuff. Like just obviously there's like when you first go into like, oh, what are some of the rare amps that people think are cool? Like Sun is like one that pops up there. But it's just the way they designed it, like those amps, and like how they just kind of pushed the volume aspect as far as possible was super cool.
Yeah, I don't know much about Sun amps, but Eli, who plays guitar for Gates to Hell, for a long time, his like main amp was a Sun amp. And if you were to just look at it, you would be like, oh, it looks like an old PA head or something. Like it doesn't look like anything special, but it's really high gain. It's solid state, and it was like just as loud as a 5150. It was very cool. But that's like the extent of what I know about those. But that did kind of blow me away first seeing that.
Yeah, the PV standard I use for bass is just like a PA head.
Oh, okay.
But it sounds crazy, and it has really cool tone, but it's awesome to have like I also have a Sun PA head as well, and they both just deliver this insanely cool tone, but like really you can kind of flat it out, kind of make it like the EQ just about as flat as you can make it, and then shape using like a Sans amp with bass, and just you'll get this insane power, but this underlying like texture that you get from like these older like PA heads that like just guitarists and bassists alike used.
Yeah. So would you run like a live set through like the Sun PA head, like playing bass? That is.
I haven't yet, but I would. I would
Okay.
absolutely trust it because it's great. And like it's funny how in like older equipment you like don't see like it's always a thing that makes me nervous, and I'm sure you've seen it on older equipment where they just don't put ohm rating on stuff, and
Yeah.
you're like, how are you not going to put that? Like, I need
Yeah.
to. It's like good to know, especially like everything seems to be. I've noticed as far as like 412s, everything seems to be going towards 16.
Yeah. That
Like
is true. Yeah. I feel like that is for some reason.
it must be because it's more efficient because it's like pulling in less power. I'm guessing or
Maybe
something.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really like, to be honest, don't really understand like, how the ohm like compatibility works necessarily, or
Mhm.
like I just know to like match typically the ohms, like, whatever the cabinet ohm is to set your head to it.
Yeah.
But if you can't, the lower number is typically fine. Like 8 into 16 is typically fine, pretty
Mhm.
sure. But I don't really know what that means. Like I don't know if you're getting a weaker signal because of that, or like less power is going to the cabinet because of that.
Mhm.
Um it would seem like that would be the case, but I've never noticed a difference, so not really sure.
Yeah, it's just it is because a lot of I guessing they didn't have the ohm rating on a lot of older amplifiers
Mhm.
because they would all run around 4 or they would be if I believe there are a lot of them were variable ohmage where they would kind of adapt in some way. I'm not
That's
sure even how
cool.
that works. What's really cool, but like I think the best thing to have is just the switch on the back that goes between the three.
Just to be
It's
safe,
super cool to
yeah.
have those, but I think they mainly ran at 4, and like you would just know not to turn it up because 4 is pretty much just like the highest, like saying like I'm gonna allow this much power through. Whereas like if you have a 16 ohm speaker, it's like I can only take this much, but I'll allow you to bring this much, but it's like pouring water into a cup, and like the amount of water you need to pour is your volume. And you can turn the volume up to a certain point where the cup doesn't overfill. But if
Mhm.
you turn it up past a certain point, you are asking for more power than that speaker can take, and so the cup overfills, and your one gives after the other. It's usually the amp
That does okay.
gives.
That does make sense putting it like that.
Right.
Yeah. So 4 ohms is typically like the more powerful
Yeah, you'd
when
find
you're
that
okay.
in all bass amps. Pretty
Gotcha.
much anything that's like a basic. Your 810s are the rated for 4 ohms, but they can be powered not as well with something lower powered.
Mhm.
And so it can go that way where where a speaker that's giant like an 810, and you like obviously you plug like a tiny, tiny terror or something into it. It's not if it's not rated for 4 ohms, if it's like an 8 ohm, it's going to try its best to power that speaker, but it's not going to bring that speaker to life in its full capability.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That does make
and when you're
sense.
doing the other way, the speaker's hoping you don't ask it to do more than it can do because
Yeah,
it will
yeah.
fail, and something will give.
And so like with running into PA heads like you were mentioning, that being
Mhm.
like a very cool thing, like a cool sounding thing, like as
Mhm.
far as running bass tone, like I'm not very familiar with playing bass outside of just like studio stuff. So
Mhm.
like I'm curious like if most bass players don't rely on the amp for tone and like are more pedal centric, compared to like a lot of guitar players, and at least like in the
Mhm.
heavier world, definitely I feel like rely on the amp tone more so.
Yeah, I think it's just it. I think there is more of a I'm using house equipment kind of ideology from bassists, like more
Mm,
like I you're going to pretty much unless you're at a high level of touring where you always are bringing your 810 like your setup with you at every show. If you're using house equipment every night, then I guess it's that's that spot before you're bringing your setup to every show
mm,
that can just really help with a consistent sound where it's like I have my head and I have my Sans amp and my noise gating and my tuning and compression or whatever else that you're running, and that it's like a way that you can kind of stay sane without bringing. Also, it's pretty lightweight. You just got your head and your guitar and your pedal board. Whereas I feel like in others, and I think that's unique to metal because like you ask a lot from any piece of equipment that as a bassist for a heavy band, you're putting a lot of strain on it, and you need volume to be heard. Whereas there's a lot more there. I'm not saying there isn't, but oftentimes there's a lot more subtlety in how bass is played in other genres, like the slower ones, where you can really hear like, ooh, that slide, or like the space in between the notes more, or like you can really hear the treble more, in that when like you roll off like that low end just to that sweet spot where that treble's kind of like pushing out and like finding its own place. And you may only get that out of your combo amp or your Jazz Master or like your piece of Fender equipment that you found. You may only find that in that setting, and it's easier because it's like a combo amp, and
Right.
what volume you're going to be at pretty much. But that's just been my experience. We toured with No Guard for a bit. They're like a newer kind of oi band.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
Their bassist his pedal board and I like looked very similar, both Sans amp, and there's like I just get a consistent sound through all these shows, all these from like your big venues to Steve's Kitchen. Like I have a consistent sound.
Nice. So the Sans amp is a pretty like staple thing.
Yeah, amongst bassists for the bass version of the Sans amp. Yeah,
that's very cool.
And I've heard great things about the guitar one before, but that's usually you kind of want to have more control with the guitar tone, just because there seems to be other factors that go into it for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. What is a piece of wisdom you could give to guitar players concerning maintenance for your instrument?
I guess not really sure. I feel like I don't take great care of my instruments, but they have not failed me really. I guess just to be careful with it when you're playing on stage and like be mindful, of like your surroundings, like not to knock it on something or, drop it if it's not secured properly. I feel like obviously those can do real damage to it. And of course, like, not keeping it in a great controlled climate can also like do long-term damage to it. But the guitars I've consistently toured with the last 2 years have been through hell, I feel like, as far as like climate and just like,
I always worry about them in the hot trailer.
The
cold, I know cold does a lot too, but it's the hot that worries me the most.
The hot is,
just bacon in there.
I just, try not to think about it, I guess, because whenever you take them out of the trailer when it's like a really hot day, like I have this plastic bag that I keep my strap and my wireless in that's in the guitar case, and it's like stretchy almost, because I'm like, okay, this guitar case is like so hot right now. But it's never caused anything weird to happen. Like I don't know. I guess I just make sure it's properly set up before tours, and it's just been good still. I'm sure one day I'll see the effects of like the weather and stuff, but at that point, what can you really do, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like I know humidity does a number on guitars. Mainly acoustic guitars are the biggest victim of humidity, where they can just warp and just you just start getting strange sort of artifacts from that. Or
Yeah.
no matter how you fix the intonation, there's always that one string that still hits that one fret, still rests on it, and you're like, how do I do it? It's just permanently, it's this, I guess it's the nature of wood until they make somebody will make a concrete guitar. And
Yeah.
be like, now that would be ridiculous. We feel like people have made more ridiculous guitar versions of things than almost
Probably.
any other instrument.
Yeah, it seems to be an easier thing to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Quality is probably not great with most of it, but it's
No.
doable. But yeah, like I've never had like a really bad like drop of my guitar, either of my guitars that I've been touring
good.
with. Like I've had them like fall over onto like, I don't know, like furniture and stuff, but I've never had like a solid drop
Yeah,
of
like
any of
a-
my guitars. And so
Yeah.
like there's really no like nicks or like there's like scratches from picking, like
Mhm.
light scratches, but like I keep them clean and they've been really good.
That's great.
So yeah. And
Yeah.
like I said, I don't really feel like I take the best care of them, but
Mhm.
they have held together really good.
I believe it is definitely a spectrum, because I think what you may consider is like, I don't really take too good care of it, to somebody else would be like, oh, you take very good care of it, because they look at their guitar like people just setting beers on the guitar. Like, there's probably a huge spectrum with that of people like, oh yeah, I'm lucky if it makes it through the year kind of people.
One thing of advice, I guess, that I did think of, but it's just been a thing I've done for so long. I don't even know if it's true, but
Mm.
I always see people like set their guitars down with like strings upward, and then the neck is like down on something. Like there's pressure on the back of the neck when they sit it down, and that can definitely make your guitar like intonation like bow out.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like it happened a lot when I was learning to play guitar. I was like, why am I like, my guitar wasn't always like this. Why is it like this now? And like a friend of mine's dad who played was like, yeah, it's because you're not like setting it upright. Like when you have it on a guitar stand or something, like it's more balanced out. But if you're just sitting it on the ground and the neck is leaning against something, it allegedly can
Oh
just
yeah, I imagine
pretty
so.
instantly affect your intonation. So I
Wow.
try to never sit it like that on anything.
That is good advice. Yeah, invest in your guitar stand, and because like that's so classic, is you lean your guitar against your amp, or
Yeah.
you lean it against a wall. But that makes sense because like the pressure is being distributed onto the neck now.
Yeah.
Where-
Or yeah,
yeah.
you can I always would just turn it the other way around. Like if I'm leaning it against something, lean the strings up against like
I see.
whatever the surface is. Cause also if the neck's not touching it, but the headstock is what's hitting the surface, it's like also applying that same pressure on the neck. So it can definitely warp it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that is great advice. So why clued me in that you play some video games on the road sometimes.
Yeah.
So what is the go-to game for tour lately? And like what kind of game? Because I feel like there's certain ones I can't play well. I can't feel like a long like RPG. I feel like it needs to be something that I can kind of pick up and put back down. Like
Yeah.
where do you find yourself there?
Fortnite.
Fortnite, that's a good one, yeah.
Fortnite has been the one that I've played the most. And for a while I was playing the MMO Final Fantasy 14. And that is a game where you could just like pick it up and put it down.
Mhm.
The only reason I stopped playing that on the road is because it's very hard to see on like a small screen and like focus in on it.
Oh yeah.
So Fortnite has just been the go-to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And were you on a Steam Deck?
I was not. I have a Backbone controller for my phone,
Oh,
and I
cool.
remote play my PlayStation from it.
Oh, right.
So yeah, you have to make sure you're on like good Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
But if you're on good Wi-Fi, like your phone is connected to good Wi-Fi, it can stream it really good from the PlayStation.
With little latency, little delay.
Yeah, very little latency.
That's very cool.
Yeah, like I got really used to playing Fortnite like that. At first I was like, this is probably going to be weird, probably not going to translate well, but it's pretty sick.
That's
and
awesome.
Not that expensive of a setup for
Nice.
like, you know, the backbone.
Nice. Yeah. That is like Fortnite's this like perfect kind of game to just put down, put back up. It's just like one match kind of thing, and it's like you can get right to the action, or you can like try to plot, you know, and do your own thing and play with other people. That one is just it's so cool to see like their Nintendo like attention to detail to like certain mechanics of that game. Like early on, having like a team of like 25 people just focusing on the jump and like how the jump felt reminded me of early Nintendo like attention to quality, where they're like, but how's it feel though? You know, like, and so it's cool seeing and that game constantly changing all the time. It's like and you can go back to how it was like in the OG version, or you can just hop onto the current craziness that's going on. And like one time I'll just go on like, what's going on? Oh, they added a slide. That's crazy. And like, oh, now like the stamina system's differently. And like, oh, now I'm like driving like a crazy vehicle from Star Wars. Like, it's very cool. And perfect able to pick up and put down. I imagine like an MMO, not so much. It's like if you can't really go on raids together, you know, like in the van like too much if you have to like if the others are relying on you.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like Final Fantasy 14 as an MMO is like a pretty single player like based one. Like you definitely have other people in there with you, but like everything that you do to progress the story is pretty much single player. So it was easy for me to play that and pick it up and put it down. But Fortnite's just awesome. It's a good go-to to play.
Yeah. And the developers for that game also did actually have a console version in mind while developing it.
Of
which
which
helps.
game?
Of FF14.
Oh, yeah.
And so that kind of helps like translate it, because there's like some versions like if it's just the PC version, but like on this device, and you're just like, oh, this it's really not translating well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like RuneScape, how like the main story, like all the quests, like it is a multiplayer game, but it's not until like it also like RuneScape, I guess, in the fact that FF14 and RuneScape are like the raids, like the ones where you're like really getting together with big groups of people on Discord and stuff is like end game stuff. Just like all like you work for years trying to get your character to that point where you're actually raiding with people and like getting like in clubs or the factions or whatever. Yeah. That's really cool. I remember hearing at a fan who at a friend who was like a big fan of FF14, and he told me all about the wild stuff that game's gone through, where like they were like suffering from success. There was like the DJ Khaled meme of the suffering from success, where they just like they had too many people in the servers. They didn't have enough server space, so they were turning people away.
It's pretty
like,
crazy.
That's wild. Like to be that successful and have the game like it's really cool. I gave it a good shot, but I too quickly saw the formula of go kill 3 of these and then gather this and then bring them back to me and then I'll give you a gold piece, and then like it didn't catch me like other games had. And like it also didn't help that I had no like Final Fantasy experience or history at all, pretty much. So that I imagine people who like grew up with Final Fantasy, like that is like a huge part of it, obviously. So I kind of bounced off of it, where like I'm like in a place where I'm waiting, and I think a lot of people are waiting for the next big MMO, because like there's all these ones that have stood the test of time, and like there might be one that kind of pops up its head for a little bit but then just goes back to ashes. And there's some really great ideas out there, but executing them and finding the right teams to do it all has to be perfect. But when it happens, it's going to be it's gonna be crazy. And I really
Oh,
think
yeah.
I think that's coming. Like, I don't know when or even if it is, but if it does, it's gonna be very, very cool. Like, to see the
Yeah.
next big MMO happen, because everybody is gonna want to give it a try.
I don't know. I want to say that this probably just won't happen, but I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, and there are
Oh.
there are a lot of Kingdom Hearts games that haven't gotten proper console ports. But one of the most important ones as far as story goes was a phone app that is no longer a thing. And they haven't put out like, official cutscenes of like the whole thing on like, console or like rendered in like the game engines, like for the whole story that is of the phone app. But the story could so perfectly be told through an MMO with the way that phone app was set up. And there's been like already a pretty big gap as far as Kingdom Hearts games go. And as far as story goes, from the last game to this current game that's going to be coming out, Kingdom Hearts 4, there's a lot of ground that people need to be covered on from these phone apps. And if Square Enix made a Kingdom Hearts MMO, I think it would be insane, even to people who don't care about Kingdom Hearts, just because of like the environment and like the character designs. Cause like the phone app, it really wasn't the most enjoyable to play. But if it was on like PC or a PlayStation 5 with like the engine that even Kingdom Hearts 3 was created in, it could be so good. Like,
Wow.
yeah, for the longest time, I was like, please just make an MMO of this. And I was kind of thinking that they would. I don't really see it happening now, but it would be awesome if it did.
That is brilliant, because obviously the intellectual property crossover expands through, Disney and through, I'm not sure, Pixar, or through any of the other, or DreamWorks, I'm not sure, but at least the Disney intellectual property that it covers is already a huge base of people. I mean, this is Disney we're talking about. So the amount of people who are already in that market, like who know about that, who have emotional connections to these things, would love to be a part of that. And as you said, like, because the people who have never even heard of Kingdom Hearts, they'd be like, Kingdom what? Never heard of that. But I've heard of Moana, and I've heard of like these things that I really love. And of course, like Mickey Mouse and stuff. Like, and so that would be that would be a really, I mean, that's a great idea to pitch that too would not be hard, because it's like, it's a Disney MMO. So it's like, it comes down to Disney MMO.
Also,
and they'd be like, people know Disney.
Yeah.
And people want an MMO.
So even if you knew nothing about Kingdom Hearts, the story of that phone app was a prequel to everything. It's the very beginning of everything. So hypothetically, that could be a starting point for people who had never dove into the series. But realistically, if Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out and there's no recreation of like story from that mobile app or anything, everybody is going to be very upset, because I feel like such a small amount of people really went through the trouble to like play the gacha game on the phone, but it like has such a good story and like key information that needs to be told. But an MMO would just be perfect for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Square Enix already having Final Fantasy 14, the MMO, and then just to have somebody like jump into the morning board meeting and be like, what'd be great is if we did Kingdom Hearts MMO with the Disney franchise. They'd just be like, yes, that would be really good, but we're also holding this together like with duct tape right now, like making
Yeah.
sure that these servers don't explode and that they can't make the servers fast enough, like these server places, like
Yeah.
because it's wild, and they're introducing new mechanics still, like though this would say give it like a 10 more years, all the stuff that they have learned from operating Final Fantasy 14 could translate into that Kingdom Hearts MMO that
Oh,
eventually
yeah.
comes out. They'd be like, we've been through it all. We've been through everything you could imagine. Like what makes a great MMO, what makes a great online service in general, like why YouTube is so successful and why no video app or website ever kind of was like, oh, but me too, even, is because they went through all the stuff that you could go through, every problem, every issue with all the things that they have to deal with localization, with bit rate, like what kind of quality can we let people, how many videos can people upload at once, and like all the different video formats that they have to work with, and like having to do regulations with PAL in Europe and versus the kind of display formats that they have in different countries. Like they've been through it all, and they've had to they've had to go through every single issue and problem, to where like as soon as like a new startup tries to like, we're going to be the next YouTube, it's just that wisdom and experience that kind of overcomes that, and it's like you can't really buy that with any
Yeah.
amount of money. And so that team that has worked on FF14 for so long, they may be able to branch off eventually, like kind of hand the keys. MMOs, I feel like that one will still be going for a while. If it does, I can't see it failing in 10 years, but it could, who knows? But like in a nice way, it'd be cool to see like them hand the keys to developers, younger developers, and so who are learning how to operate an MMO, and then move on to perhaps that Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts MMO with all the experience they've had. They'd be like, we know what to look for with issues, like especially early with growing pains of an MMO. Like that would be very, very cool. You got me excited
Dude.
about the prospect of that.
Yeah, it's like, it's so unfortunate because like Square Enix has like a lot of mobile games, like they always have, but like Kingdom Hearts Union Cross was a mobile game that was going on for like, I want to say like 10 years or something. Story was like very sparsely like implemented into like updates and stuff, but by the end of it, it was its own like self-contained thing, and people were like, oh, the story of this is really cool, and then kind of hoping for like a way for it to be retold. But instead, after that, there were more phone games that got announced. One of them, maybe a month after it launched, got canceled.
After it launched?
Yes,
Oh.
it launched, and they were like, this isn't doing well. We're just going to release like screenshots basically of what we had planned for the story. And they did that. And they were like, yeah, they're like, okay, but now we're going to do another mobile app. And it kept getting delayed. And then they announced it was canceled. And I'm like, all right, I just really wish that you all would invest like these teams into just a
The big
better
one.
way to,
Yeah. And just go all out with it.
yeah,
Just like full investment. Like the mobile app probably was, I imagine for the development team, especially if you've worked on bigger projects, when you're put on the mobile app, you might be like, dang.
yeah,
Not as like motivated as you would be if like this is gonna be on the PC, like the big consoles. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, dang, I'm on the phone app. There's just probably some low amount of kind of motivation that comes from
oh,
that.
definitely. It's such a bummer because Final Fantasy like self-contained with each game, and like you could easily make a phone app with a Final Fantasy title slapped on it, and it's like its own self-contained thing. But
Yeah.
throwing Kingdom Hearts into the mix of that is like just crazy to me. Just like continuously, it's like it's weird, and I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess Kingdom Hearts really kind of keeps the story closer to its chest throughout the telling of the games.
Oh yeah.
More than Final Fantasy does, where like you can have like a crisis core and it's like this is just the story about this one
Yeah.
event, and like you can kind of read into stuff after it, but it's like it's just own like kind of movie pretty much.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, oh, that's cool, and if you like that, then there's more story to that. 'Cause it's like that's what this character is doing that whole time during the events of this game.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Very true.
So
yeah.
Kingdom Hearts kind of, and it's wild because does it bring all the Final Fantasy lore with it? Or is it have its own world of Final Fantasy lore separate from what's being told in the Final Fantasy universe?
It has its own world of Final Fantasy lore
Okay.
with those characters. Yeah. Which is kind of weird, but the Final Fantasy characters that are in Kingdom Hearts were only like put in it originally to promote the game to Final Fantasy fans.
It became an intimate part of it more than any other crossover.
Yeah. But like it's just a thing where like I know me and Y have talked about Kingdom Hearts a lot. We're both really big into it, but like if you were to play Kingdom Hearts 1 and then go to Kingdom Hearts 2, you would have so many questions. You
Because
would
of
not
all
understand.
the 1 point somethings
Yeah,
in between?
if
Oh my gosh.
You like
That's crazy.
I remember the first time I didn't know there were games in between and started playing Kingdom Hearts 2, it just doesn't make sense. Like you can play through it and be like, okay, there's like characters from the first game, but it story-wise, it does not make any sense
No
at
kidding.
all.
Because of all the 1 point somethings.
Yeah, it's just a
Wow.
very like that's why it's so frustrating with the mobile apps, like having
Yeah.
the story, because it's all just each piece of everything is so, meaningful to the story.
And so like haphazard and scattered everywhere that you're at the point where it's like, let's just take all of it and put it in one thing
Yeah.
and release it into like an MMO that just like it has all the lore wrapped into it.
Yeah.
Everything is and yeah, that's wild. Does the we'll move on from Kingdom Hearts because I know some people are like what is going on? But the does it acknowledge any of the Final Fantasy lore?
Not really.
Not at all. Not really.
It
Like Sora, not Sora. Sephiroth is still bad. Sephiroth, like main and elemental things, like fundamental things, like Sephiroth bad
Yeah,
is still. a
yeah,
thing.
they definitely portray like the characters as like good or bad.
Okay.
But like as far as like character lore, it's pretty much completely
Yeah,
different.
they
There's
were
no-
probably like in the writers' room, like, let's not do this.
Yeah,
Let's not do that.
There's no reason why any of them should be in the Kingdom Hearts world.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. And does it acknowledge that there is a separate universe for these characters?
Kind of.
Kind of.
But very vaguely.
Very vaguely. It's just
Yeah.
like there's multiple universes. Maybe.
Yeah,
There's some, and like we'll take a peek into that and what's going on in that over that city. And it's just like the events of FF7, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
It's very vague, yeah.
got you. Okay. Have you ever written a piece of music based off something that you heard in a video game? Or have you ever found yourself just genuinely inspired by a piece of video game music that you heard?
Yeah, I love the music in the Silent Hill games. I really like a lot of the story from like the first 4 Silent Hills a lot. So for Gates's like latest record, I wrote lyrics to a song about this ritual that's in one of the Silent Hills. It's in the 4th one called 21 Sacraments. And it's like, it's a ritual that's planned out by like the main bad guy of the game. But it's the way it's told in the story is like also kind of vague. Like you have to like read letters and stuff like that to get the full like lore of how it works. But I thought it was so cool when I was playing it, and now we have a song about it.
That's awesome. And that is Silent Hill 4, The Room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's one of the ones I played for a while, never got too far, but I got stuck. Obviously, it was my first Silent Hill game.
Oh, okay.
Was 4. Went back and played 1 and 2, and just recently played the. Did you end up playing the remake?
I did, yeah.
What did you think? How did you think Bloober Team did?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
When I saw the trailer, I was like, Konami hasn't acknowledged Silent Hill games in like so long.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like,
No.
they probably have seen how good these Resident Evils are doing, and they're wanting to make a similar style remake because it kind of looked from the trailers like a more action based,
Mhm.
game. But playing it, I was like, okay, this really isn't
It's
like
not,
action forward. It's still just like a horror game, like a stealthy horror game. I like
Yeah.
it a lot.
They kept the survival horror feel in there. They didn't make you like overpowered or make you feel like powerful in any way.
Yeah.
They did a good job, and boy did Konami turn on the fire hose when it came to Silent Hill.
Yeah.
They went from like it's off and it's staying off to just, I mean, Silent Hill F, Silent Hill like home. I think Homecoming, or there was that's like an older one. But like there's all these different. There's like 4 Silent Hill projects that they announced that they had this like, and I watched it. They had like a Nintendo Direct style showcase, talking about all the different Silent Hill games that they're working on.
Yeah. They're remaking the first one, which is awesome. They've got Silent Hill F. They've got a new movie coming out called Return to Silent Hill.
That's right.
I think it's based off of 2, Silent Hill 2. And then I think it's called Silent Hill Township.
That's right. Yeah.
That's another game.
Yeah.
Not a lot of details about that yet. But
yeah,
a lot of really cool stuff.
They had that Community one that didn't go so well, I don't think.
The
it was
show?
Like it was like it was like interactive show with like Twitch chat or something.
It's really bad.
It's really bad. Yeah,
Ascension.
I heard that was not good.
It's on Tubi. Like you can see the finalized like episodes and stuff. It's just laid out like a show. It very much vibes like it's AI written.
Oh no. Oh no.
It doesn't make sense and the story just doesn't really end up going anywhere. Yeah, it vibes like AI for sure.
Copy that.
Might not be the case, but I didn't like it.
Gotcha. And then there was that free game they came out with that I played.
Short Message.
I played through and beat that one. It was a short game.
Yeah.
But and that was just it was an experience. I just don't know I guess it was like an engine. It felt like an engine demo.
Yeah.
Like it's like this is a game that we could make.
Yeah.
In this demo for this engine that we made for all these new Silent Hill games.
Yeah, it did feel like that. I feel like it wasn't bad necessarily. It was cool. It was free too. Yeah. So like, but yeah.
Can't complain at all about free.
Yeah. But it is odd because like Silent Hill 2 and it doesn't look like F play anything like that Short Message game.
Yeah.
did.
But they may be using that game to establish some lore in the new Silent Hill universe that they're creating. Like there was a lot of news articles, like a lot of like flavor text, stuff that's like this is happening around the world, and like it's not just this town. And so perhaps that game kind of, when you watch your next Silent Hill video essay on YouTube in the future, they'll be like, well, actually in Silent Hill Short Message, they actually pointed to this events in Silent Hill F happening, and like they start doing strings like on the board. And
that
everything.
is true.
So
I didn't even think about that.
There was a ton of flavor text to the point where it felt like they might be planting some seeds for some lore. So that would be a very cool way to do it. Just give it out for free, while also they probably made that game as like to work out how to use the engine. And they said we have like less than a quarter of a game, but we can like kind of release it out. And so either way, I played it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's awesome that you wrote lyrics inspired by the Silent Hill for the Room, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
events of that, which ended up being like a ritual.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Gotcha. I've watched. I used to edit videos for a speedrunner who did Silent Hill 4 speedruns.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I watched a ton of that game being speedrun. It's could never do it myself, obviously, but like
Yeah,
love watching like Silent Hill speedrunning community is crazy cool too. Like
yeah.
they got that game broken.
They really do. Yeah, I've watched some for like some of the other Silent Hills. I don't think I've seen much from 4, but that game is hard.
Yeah.
I really like it a lot though. I like I like all of the Silent Hills that I played though.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a bad one really.
Yeah. I know people say things about Homecoming and Downpour
Dude,
being not the best,
I
but
do like those a lot.
yeah, I haven't played them myself, so I couldn't form an opinion on them.
There is one that was for the Wii and the PlayStation 2 called Shattered Memories.
Oh, I've
And
heard of this one.
it was like a rough reimagining of the first game. That one actually
You actually
take
had
that-
the flashlight and like for
Yeah.
the Wii, and you could
that one is actually not great. The rest of them though, I
Gotcha.
really
So Shattered Memories is the meme one.
yeah.
Gotcha. Have you ever played rhythm games, specifically like drum or guitar rhythm games, like your Guitar Hero or Tatsuken
Oh yeah.
Kaizen?
Yeah, well before I started playing guitar, I played Guitar Hero so much as a kid.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, um my dad's like guitar player was telling him about it, and we were just like freaking out over the idea of like the guitar controller and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I remember he went to Kmart the night we found out about it and got a copy of it, and we just stayed up all night playing it together. And like I learned how to play on expert, and just like I would try to like 100% every song for like
Mhm.
all the games that I had. It was a really good game.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I loved it, and always curious of like how guitarists like view that game. Some of them are like, "Oh, I never got into it. I just never translated." I've heard like I think oftentimes people who played guitar first then like played guitar for years and then picked up the game. They're like, "It's kind of weird," but
Yeah.
maybe there's something to doing one before the other. But in the end of the day, rhythm games are rhythm games, and it's fun. And like that one sure broke the mold. Like here, where like rhythm games were huge in Japan forever,
Mhm.
and then we just had to kind of make it our own style, and like get an electric guitar controller,
Yeah.
and make it like really cool. I mean, like what kid didn't want to play electric guitar, like and video
Yeah.
games at the same time?
Also, yeah, the game is like, I know it's not like you can't play the notes on the controller and translate it exactly to a real guitar, but I
Mhm.
do feel like it helped me in sense, just like have the rhythm of like strumming and pushing things with my fingers. And also it's so weird, but like the background videos of like the band playing those songs are pretty accurate with what they're playing on guitar.
Oh, really?
Because I remember having a friend at the time that could play guitar. He was quite a bit older than me, and he was like watching those people in the background play guitar and like trying to learn the chords from that, and it kind of worked,
Wow,
which
no
is
kidding.
wild. But
That is wild. One thing I've heard more than once is I started drums with Rock Band drums, and that they legitimately translated in a lot of meaningful ways playing Rock Band drums first.
I mean,
Because that kind of makes sense.
it makes total sense to me. Yeah, I had the Rock Band drums for a period of time, but I still mainly played guitar when we played those games. But like after I played drums and like moved into an apartment, I was like, dang, I really want to get Rock Band drums, because like, I mean, it's like you're just playing on an electric kit. Like the
Yeah.
pedal is still gonna be sunk up to the kick drum,
Mhm.
and like I'm sure there's some things that didn't get like tracked 100% correct, but like it has to be pretty accurate for the most part.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard really good things about it. I think I played it once at a friend's house, the rock band version. It was specifically the Beatles rock band, so didn't play
Nice.
anything too high tempo, but really had fun with it though. And I remember it being really difficult for me as like I just never touched drums before, but I just like got back to my guitar like I like this.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was also trying to like learn all the songs on Expert and stuff, and got to like I wanted to play I did some songs where like you could play them without looking.
Oh yeah.
And like that was really crazy. Just like the amount of time we had to just do that is super cool.
Yeah. No, I remember playing that in a talent show in elementary school, Guitar Hero. Just
That's
like
awesome.
I remember, I think I was in first grade or second grade, and like they were like encouraging everybody to do something, and I was like, I don't really know what else to do. And so I did that, and it was just kind of silly looking back at it, but everybody was playing that at the time, and they were like, "Oh my god, I can't play that on Expert."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Legit talent. Exactly. That's cool. Yeah, and at that age you're like, that is playing out Expert.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's looking at it. Like that's too cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So on these like longer tours that you have, what is just some essentials that keep you sane, keep you going, keep you just motivated or just like revitalized during the long trips?
A lot of water, for sure, a lot of water. And just to make sure I'm eating good. I try to eat a lot of like Chipotle while we're on tour.
Oh, okay.
Because it's very cheap and pretty nutritious, seemingly for the most part. You know, it really sucks like going periods of time just eating like straight just fried everything for long periods of time, but like going out of the way to try to eat just a little bit better. Not saying Chipotle is like, you know, top tier healthy food or anything, but eating that and then just like just trying to stay healthy on the road definitely helps.
Any specific tips for, because this would be my next question, those who are vegan and touring? Because they, usually have the hardest time, like, finding places to go. Like, wherever, like, when, like, Nariah and I go out, we're now in a band where everybody's either veg or vegan. It's been like that for many years. But, like, usually find a coffee spot, and then try to find, like, the one vegan spot in the city.
Yeah.
And hope it's open. But if not, then you have fallbacks like, oh, we're just going to the gas station and getting your Cliff Bar or whatever,
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for those of us who are vegan on the road? And I know you are yourself as well.
Yeah. I've been vegan for, I think, almost 9 years now. And so I'm pretty knowledgeable, I guess, like what could be vegan, like what couldn't be vegan. And like pretty much on the road, like we will stay at a hotel and I will eat the hotel breakfast a lot because there's not a ton that I can have, but the stuff that I can have will keep me full for a while. Like I'll eat like a bagel with like peanut butter and jelly then cereal a lot of the times, because even if they don't have oat milk, just eat it dry or oatmeal, because they always have oatmeal. So then that's one meal for the day right there, and I try to fill up on it as most as I can. Then say you're not going to be stopping at somewhere vegan friendly. Typically every time we get to a venue, I always try to walk somewhere. Like I always will scope out the places near the venue or the closest vegan places that I can just walk to. Worst case scenario, I'll DoorDash something, but that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I always try to find a cool place to walk to. And yeah, it is just typically 2 meals a day and a bunch of snacks, but I think that goes for a lot of people
Yeah, for
touring.
sure.
If they're lucky to get to, I feel like 1 meal a day is
Yeah.
even really common.
Yeah, usually one. Yeah.
But yeah, and sometimes that's the case for me, but I definitely try to eat a lot when I can.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah, it can be tough trying to find certain stuff, but I think it's getting easier. It's getting easier as you go.
It definitely is getting easier. Like, yeah, I don't think that I struggle like to find stuff anywhere. The only place is McDonald's, because like vegans can't eat anything at
Yeah.
McDonald's except for an apple pie.
Right.
But like anywhere else, any like gas station, any other chain, there's something. So
Yeah. And I know you do your research because I just had a memory pop up in my head of us like at like Golden Corral or something in like Tennessee, and you're on the phone with like the headquarters of Golden Corral trying to find out if like something is made vegan or without milk or something.
I mean,
and you went down to the core with those people. Oh, I'm gonna have to patch you in through this person to this person, and you found out,
dude,
like at the spot. I thought that was amazing. It was so good.
Yeah, it does kind of suck, but it does pay off doing stuff like that sometimes, because then you just know.
Yeah, from
you
now
know,
on, exactly.
Yeah, because like I don't know, a lot of times like you'll see places have items that like don't list ingredients like outwardly, but you're like, okay, I think that could be vegan, like
Yeah.
accidentally vegan, and like you can just find out. And
Mm.
a lot of the places, like I don't know, fast food chains that aren't some of the biggest ones, there's not threads online and stuff talking
Yeah.
about like options for vegan people and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like over the years I've figured out a good chunk of stuff from those places
Through research
Yeah.
and science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's the way.
friends also along the way that are also touring and vegan, like just giving more insight, stuff like that.
Right.
I think the worst time I ever had it was the first time we went to Europe. We were playing a lot of areas that were kind of like not in big cities, like kind of outside of like the bigger cities, and like I could not speak a lot of the languages of the countries that we were going to, so I would try to translate like packages of stuff on my own, but I was eating like baguettes a lot of the time.
Wow.
Just like straight baguettes.
The safe.
But like, I don't know. That was like the roughest time, and it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that I can't imagine. It can get a bit lost in translation, literally. Think of
Yeah.
like what is in this, and they'd be like, what's in there is in there. So I've recently, speaking of touring, I was recently performing in St. Louis, and after we played, these guys walked up to us and were like, "What city are you from?" And we said Louisville, and they looked at each other and they're like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why you guys sound good," or something. And I was like, "That's interesting. Like, what do you think it is about Louisville that churns out this great art?"
I think there's a really good group of musicians in Louisville. Like just it's consistently, since I've been going to shows, just putting out so many genuinely good bands, like bands that will be opening shows where like you might go to another city like across the country and see bands doing similar that aren't near as tight as a
Right.
lot of the bands in Louisville that I've seen. Just a lot of really, really talented people.
Yeah, and it just dawned on me, but it kind of sets a standard, doesn't it?
It
Like
really
amongst
does.
the local musicians, when your peers are all playing at this level, holding themselves to this level, you have to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
Whereas if the bar is lowered in certain areas where you're from, you may not push yourself as hard.
Yeah.
So there might be that kind of culture going on here as well, which is great. I mean, culture of just trying to be, I guess, of excellence, trying to be the best you can.
For sure.
And achieving like that greatness that you didn't think you could achieve, but through, the help of your peers, and also looking inward, and of course, going on the occasional YouTube video, figuring out like how to get to that next step in your skill.
Yeah. Like, yeah, just like looking back when I was first starting to play in bands, like when I joined Transgression and was playing with them, like, I'm sure we all look back on the band and are like, that song could have been different, or this isn't like as great as I'd like it to be, but we all still put in so much effort to the instrument we were playing. And I feel like even if you didn't appreciate musically what was going on, like we all were giving genuine effort to, the instruments we were playing and what we were doing.
Yeah.
And that's just what I saw with every band around at that time, I feel like. And still, like, I don't know, Louisville just has a lot of really good bands and really good musicians.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So, like, metal and hardcore seems to be about like the balance of innovation and tradition, when like certain methodologies of writing are seemingly like fundamental to the genre. How do you approach that from a writing perspective, like with the guitar? Like, how do you go about both honoring and innovating upon the existing elements of like the genre?
I don't know. I like, typically when I start writing, will not in my mind be like, oh, this is a hardcore song. I need to make sure that it has like these hardcore parts that, these bands would do. Like, I don't know, if I'm feeling inspired by something to start writing a song, I'll just, I guess, kind of think like, what would logically come next? What sounds right doing this? Like, and then at the end of the day, I feel like it still is gonna sound similar to, metal bands and hardcore bands, because writing styles, I feel like, for that genre aren't meant to be like, a solid set in stone, similar structure for everything, It's like very diverse, and I feel like keeping it in like a cookie cutter form or something like that just loses the, I don't know, loses the uniqueness, I guess, in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when it seems to be with any genre, when the mold is broken, like in a huge way, that people really resonate with, that often becomes the new mold.
Yeah.
And then that eventually solidifies, becomes a part of the foundation, and then is broken again. And but while maintaining these elements that make that genre the genre, but in some sort of, elemental way, where it's like these parts, these aspects define the genre deeply. But do you think that's like how I think a lot of people think of it. It's how I used to think about it, at least. And so how do you feel like, of any genre, but especially with metal, like where the natural evolution goes? Does it continue innovating with constantly reaching back at its roots, or does it kind of leave that behind eventually and become something that is almost unrecognizable from where it started?
It's kind of hard to say, but I mean, I guess in the long term of things, it kind of does eventually leave its roots behind, because of just like, how it's innovating. Like, And I know there's like a ton of different genres, but like taking it back to like what the first heavy metal band would be, Black Sabbath, like you comparing any Black Sabbath song to like a Defeated Sanity song or like a technical death metal band, like they're obviously not the same genre, but they did stem from a similar thing to where like I feel like most people could not listen to like a song by Defeated Sanity and be like, this is Black Sabbath adjacent and stuff like that. Surely down the road, like in their life, some of those musicians were influenced by them, but just, I don't know, as time goes on and bands progress and different sounds are made, like, you know, I feel like it just kind of becomes its own thing eventually. Just subgenres after subgenres after subgenres. So like
branches like a tree or roots.
Yeah.
Like into all these different things.
Because
like,
you think about like Black Sabbath being the first like heavy metal band, but if somebody started a band right now that had the same production, the same vocal style, the same everything that Black Sabbath did, I don't think people would label them that because of what the genre's turned into now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool point. You have somebody created a band that was like the inception of the genre. Would people even think it's that, or they'd say, "Oh no, that's more of like a post rock kind of thing"?
They
or
would.
They put a new
definitely
label on like what was the actual like the seed. Of it all.
They definitely would for sure.
That's super cool. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that before. Where do you find your place, like your favorite place to write is? Is it like a certain location? Is it a certain mindset? Is it just like a certain kind of feeling you have? Like, where do you find that songwriting hits you the closest? Like, if say like people like Rick Rubin say like, you know, you get close to the source, you know, or if you think of consciousness as like this kind of river and you cast a net out and these ideas can come to you, like where do you find that you cast that net out the most?
I feel like typically I get the most inspiration and feel the best writing on tour. Because like, I don't know, being on the road with different bands, like even if it's somebody you've never heard of and watching them for like 30 days straight can just be like super inspiring.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's been so many bands where I didn't nearly appreciate as much until I had watched them play like so many times and then had just like this different understanding of like their music and seeing how those bands function and stuff, like really inspire me to, you know, want to create while I'm on the road and take influence from these bands, but like not to a point where it's like I'm touring with this band, so I'm going to write a song that sounds like this band.
Yeah.
Like when we toured with Fear Factory, there was a band that I did like, but after watching them, like I grew so much more appreciation for them, and like they genuinely inspired me to write a lot of the newest Gates record that's out, but nobody who'd listen to that would think that it sounded anything like Fear Factory. It's like it is inspired by them in a sense, but not like, you know, genre wise, I guess. Just
Right.
seeing their structure, how they write songs and how they perform just pushed me in the moment. And the same thing has happened for a lot of the bands that we've toured with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Influence doesn't always just come from like that riff, that scale, like these nuts and bolts, tangible things that we point at, or like that guitar or that pedal or whatever. It comes from like yeah, as you said, like a process, like the inspiration behind that, or just like sometimes just a feeling.
Yeah.
like an aura behind something, and the way that guitarist kind of approaches performing these songs live, where you see that their headspace goes when they perform that part, that you're like, whoa, like this is powerful.
Yeah.
And gives, as you said, a whole new appreciation of it. And that's super cool to, that tour is the place. Cause like you kind of, that is like when the iron's hot almost, like you're in the element of like this live music where, that's great that you find that inspiration there. And I definitely find it as well, where I see a band and I'm like, wow, this is really inspiring. This is incredible. And I want to write to it. But I feel like, sometimes you just don't, sometimes you don't find that you have everything that you want, maybe in like a space. I think some of us are more ceremonious about like when we write, we have to have things around us kind of just a certain way, and then we can kind of like let it in.
Yeah.
That is so true though. Like when you just see, because like these people have worked, it's cool because their story led up to that moment too, and everything in their lives all led up to that moment. And you don't just see like the music part, you see themselves as a person.
For
and
sure.
a human being, and everything that comes with that, like leading up to that moment, that song, that point in the song, like, and because it's not just like notes, it's experiences and moments in your life that gets threaded in these songs and then when you share them with other people, it's like really powerful because you're able to kind of intimately have a look into their experience in ways that we're not used to being so intimate with people in that way without having a long conversation. But you can express so much through just a point in a song.
Yeah.
Especially when you're behind the boards, sort of say, like they are, and to kind of know like the process it took to get there. But you communicate it just as clear to an audience who isn't familiar with everything that goes into it, just the feeling that you communicate. And that's like just top tier songwriting, I feel like is just, it all goes back to like all this complexity, you're going up the mountain and you're seeing people like communicating or like what they want to say in all these complex and crazy polished ways, but then at the mountaintop of like mastery, it goes back to simplicity. It goes back to just like when you say the most thing we say the most is like, they make it look so easy. They're playing something so simple, but it's so perfect.
Yeah.
It's like we see that, I think most often probably in drums, where a drummer will be like, wow, it's like they're just playing a 4/4 thing that you hear all the time. It's like, but they're playing it perfect.
Yeah.
You don't understand, it's like and it's that you feel it in this way that's just like this mastery. It goes back to like when you can play the simplest things on drums, but you play it so well that it just captures the room.
And seeing how like bands, like certain bands function like on the road, like, if you've always are thinking like, wow, like how does this person play this? Or like, I wish I could play that way. Like seeing not only that they've toured for like a billion times longer than me, but like seeing their process of like, how their live setup is and how they get ready to play for a show and how they prepare for stuff is really like impactful, I feel like. And definitely seeing different bands like that has made me want to like step my game up and make, certain changes just as I see like these really tight bands having.
Yeah. And it is inspiring to see people's processes like that leading up to a show or leading up to writing or whatever it might be. So, yeah, that's awesome. If you suddenly we lived in a world where you can't play rock and metal anymore, what's the genre you would go to? Or if you had to pivot from metal, what would be the next one that you'd like to go to, you'd find yourself in?
Probably just if I had to pivot from metal, it would be to rock.
To rock.
But if I had to pivot away from both of those, maybe funk.
Funk? Hell yeah.
Which I'm not like super well versed in it, but I feel like it has a lot of elements that I would appreciate if I did not have rock or metal.
It's very interesting, like finding elements. Like you'll get a glimpse like deep into the world of some genre that you're just not familiar with at all. There's certain like funk bands I've heard where it's just like these legendary keys players that I'd never heard of, and like their backing bands were just so good, you know, and like you just get a deep glimpse into like that world, and you'll see like elements of what makes like metal great. And it'll just be like a certain like snare hit with the drums, or the way like a guitar or a bass is kind of balanced, or like does something like a inflection, or that you like, oh, I like that element in what I listen to all the time, and I can appreciate it in this, and the way it's expressed in this is super cool. And like you know, and also, you know, as a drummer, you'd be like, oh, in this genre, like I can have my toms like resonate a bit more. You know, it would actually fill in that space instead of like crowd it up. It would be very cool to be just like hit it and like let it like resonate and dissipate, and then like have its time, you know, in that kind of genre, where it's just like certain things just aren't possible within, or aren't usually found in that. Because it'd be great to have just had the silly thought of like somehow you could have a tom that would have you can adjust the resonance like on the fly. Or if like you had a fast part, you can have it resonate like really fast, like, and then like for the slow part, you could have it resonate longer. That would be that might be coming too.
That would be awesome.
That just like a little pedal that adjusts like resonance.
Yeah.
Like on just next to your hi-hat or something.
That seems realistic for sure.
That could happen. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
I'd rather see that more than just go full electric on them, because there's nothing like a great drum set. But it is it's electric kits are amazing for like teaching and just being able to like play in your apartment without just being like enemy number one to all your neighbors.
Yeah, they are nice. And some of the really high end ones are, you know, pretty good feeling, but I feel like it still is like, I don't know. It might just be me. I just always feel scared to hit the electric drums hard as I would hit the acoustic ones.
Right.
I feel like if I learned on an electric kit and just played electric and translated to an acoustic kit, I would be like not hitting as hard, or have to adjust to being like, I need to hit 2 times harder than I've been hitting the whole time.
Yeah, because they do a good job on the other end, where it's like if you hit it softly, then it'll do a soft tone, and like they must have like, who knows, like 50 levels of sensitivity or something at some point with the really nice ones of like how hard. But you know, I imagine like after a certain point of hitting it hard, it just kind of plateaus. Like, but yeah, I'm sure it's just like how hard, because I know, are people hitting it as hard as I'm hitting these? Because like I'm gonna hit these guys really hard. Like, are people? Because not everybody's. It's also another thing that's kind of enveloped in the genre itself, where it's like you're gonna be hitting pretty hard and fast. It's like you wear down every instrument a bit more in that genre, where like some guys may like, oh yeah, I've had this drum kit for years. It's like you play literally half the speed, so half the amount of like hits, like during a whole tour. I
always get like used cymbals when I have to get them, and it's typically like older Zildjian you can find pretty cheap, and it's like just crazy seeing like the 70s or like 80s Zildjians that just don't have cracks in them yet, and like
wow,
I don't know, like I a lot of times can get them pretty cheap, but just thinking about like this has been used for so long, but I know I'm gonna crack it in at least a year. Like just
it's like had a full life but never been cracked. People have been, it's like, were they playing it with brushes? It's like, no, they were hitting it pretty hard too.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
I guess that's a nice thing about cymbal shopping, is it's not so much of the used car problem where you're like, who knows what's going on with this thing? Where like a guitar, even like you may not know. Guitars are still pretty good, but like amps are tough. You know, it's just like you never know. But with a cymbal, you're like, is it cracked? Is it warped? Look at it. is pretty good, and like you kind of can tell you its story pretty fast.
Yeah.
And you know that within a year this thing's going to be pretty cracked, but it still gives you a whole year after its like natural life has ended, where someone's like had this since it's new, played it for years, gonna sell it now because I got the new symbol, and you're like, I'm gonna give it a whole new year. It's gonna be it's gonna be the craziest year of its life, but I'm gonna give it a life afterwards.
Yeah, when it's not cracked, it really is just like a brand new symbol.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Especially when it's that old, you can only assume it hasn't had that much, wear and tear on it.
Yeah, people just they don't hit them too hard, and that just makes them last a lot longer than what we're used to. It's like with especially like snare heads. Probably people change them like every, maybe sometimes 2 years, but I know drummers in the genre who do them every 6 months at least.
Yeah,
just
for
because
sure.
they have to, or else they'll have the unthinkable happen during a show.
Definitely.
And break one.
Yeah.
So what's the next project for you that you're excited about, that you're looking forward to?
So Gates to Hell has some new songs coming out. I'm very excited for them. So that's really the main thing that I'm excited about. Might be a new band coming soon that I'm doing, which I'm
awesome.
also really excited for. Kind of like a softer rock thing. So something that I've listened to for a long time, but never been in a band doing it. So yeah, I'm really excited for that when it finally,
I'd love to hear, where you go with that tonally and how you approach that. Are you approaching that as a guitarist or as a drummer? Or
guitarist.
Guitarist? That's awesome.
It was like really hard for me to get a group of songs together to write, because I listened to a lot of different kinds of rock, but every time I would try to write, it would come across like very pop punk adjacent, and I don't really know why.
I don't know where that came from.
And it's not what I wanted to go for at all. And I think maybe it has to do with like I was programming drums along to the guitar, and maybe the drums are so clean, just being programmed, that it just sounds like very produced pop punk. But I just wrote some songs with no drums to it, and then recorded with like, less polished setup, I guess, to give like the production sound that I was going for. So it does not sound pop punk. So that's good.
So when you started a bit more polished, I guess, pop punk can get more in the like hyper polished, overproduced area. So like they might be quantizing those drums like 100%. Just like even the in studio played drums, like they'll have a drummer in there, but they'll just quantize and be like, perfect. And it's like, you take away a little bit there. There is this uncanny valley, right? Of like when you're listening, it's like, is that a person? Is that not a person? You're like, I don't know. And like living in that space is kind of weird. I kind of like to hear, a bit of a texture, like humanization, I guess they call it in the software.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, that was just somebody feeling it out.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, a little late, a little early, but I felt it.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes back to.
I mean, I know it differs from genres, like production wise, like what I'd prefer to hear in a mix, but like for rock music like that, I really would prefer like the first Pity Sex EP. The drums on it are very like, seems like they're very like room mic heavy. But in the sound of that mix, you can definitely tell that it's a real person playing drums, and that it's, I think at least it seems like it. I really like how production like that sounds for rock music. I wouldn't take like the same sound that like the latest Gates to Hell record has and like translate it directly to a rock album like that. I don't think it would sound as good.
Yeah, I there really is something to the room sound aspect that's like so important. I find like I just started recording drums and I just did like my full like 8 hour, 10 hour day where we recorded just 4 songs, like started with drums, then all instruments, all the way to vocals. And one thing I found after listening to like the tracks together is like I I kept a room mic in front of the drums, but I kept that same room mic when the guitars were recorded and when the bass was being played through here instead of through DI. And I would have had the vocals done in the same room, but I wanted it to be done in just the isolated booth upstairs. And there is something to be said about carrying that same texture of the room that everything was performed in into the album. And I
Mhm.
feel like you see that more in older records where it wasn't just like the hyper, polished like sound drum room. And then like the guitars are played over here and then everything and the bass is played just DI or whatever. And like playing it all, like feeling the room that it's played in, like really adds something to a record in a really cool way. And
It
I think,
definitely does.
yeah, and I got this really great vocal room mic, like just by chance that I'll have to share with you if you ever get into recording. But
Oh
it's like
yeah.
really cool. And we played the drums back just through this like mic that we placed chest high, like right almost where I am, and it just could have like cut a demo from it. It was insanely impressive.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
but ended up doing like 8 inputs on the drum set,
Nice.
and Cadillac does 14,
Whoa,
which
okay.
is like, yeah, it blew my brain when I asked him because he's a drum tracker like basically by trade,
Yeah.
and he like hyper focuses on being someone who tracks drum sets, and so I get like if you're like that's your thing, you want to give the mixing engineer the most amount of freedom to do whatever.
Yeah.
If it's like room mic 1C, like in the corner, and like I don't know how he got the 14. I think we tried to count it out, but that's so much. But it's good to
Yeah.
do that though.
That is
For
cool.
sure.
Yeah. Every time I've recorded drums with him, the person mixing it has always made them sound pretty good in my opinion. Like they
Yeah.
had plenty to work with.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
that's all you can ask for is like one, it sounds good, and that they have plenty to work with.
Yeah.
As far as like when you're sending a mix off,
For
that's like the
sure.
best you can do. But great. So yeah, we're looking forward to. I'm looking forward to hearing that new band. That's awesome, and then the new Gates to Hell songs. Looking forward to those as well. Do you have any message or wisdom that you can give to guitarists who may look up to you as inspiration?
Just write some songs and start a band.
Write those songs, start a band with your friends.
Yeah. Can always use more bands.
I think that honestly isn't said enough, and I appreciate that because I think we hear that at shows so much, but people don't usually often make it out to shows. But like, I think it needs to be said, on the internet as well as in real life. Like, start a band, just do it.
Yeah.
Just like it really is about just starting, and I think it comes into a lot of things. But just like do the thing.
Yeah.
Start the thing, that art thing, that weird thing that you're like, should I? Shouldn't I? You should do it.
Yeah,
Just do
there was a period of time like right before COVID and then when shows started coming back, like where definitely like the group of like 10 people max was in every single band. I felt like in the area, like playing hardcore shows in Louisville, and like now there are so many like kids starting bands and stuff. Just like people who started going to shows and were like, oh, I want to start a band, and like, just like actively seeing some of them get like so much better from like one show to the next.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
just really cool to see now like the amount of people that are starting things.
Yeah, it's awesome watching like that's that special time where it's like the amount of improvement in between shows is like great. Like you
Yeah.
listen to one show and then you go to the next, like, oh my gosh, next show, and you're like, every single show is just because they're in that moment, like it's what another thing that makes this community great is like everybody supporting each other. Like, yeah, keep going. Like if you need help with anything, like Naraya like went with the Mean Mug kids and we're like, let's get your tone right. Let's just talk.
Yeah.
Let's just go over tone today. And just like just to have people from the older generation to come and like help the new one with just like all the stuff that you usually have to bump your head on and like kind of learn the hard way. But like as like with parents with children, you kind of want the next generation to have it easier than you had and not have to worry about like all that stuff that we had to worry about, and kind of make life easier just so you can get closer to just creating the art and getting the art out there and not have to worry about like, oh yeah, like don't ever use like these patch cables or like this thing because like they'll break after 2 shows, and like I'm sorry your pedal board fell apart completely because nobody told you what to get.
No,
because
like,
you have the patchwork thing going on.
Props to Naraya for that, for sure. For I'm pretty sure he put them on their first show. Maybe it might have been Mean Mug's first show. And I remember him telling me about them when they first played, because I had seen their like social media that they like were a band and starting to play shows, but I didn't know much about them. And I think he put them on their first show, and just since then, like seeing what it's turned into, like, still hasn't been a band for very long, but like they have a song called Stocking Lettuce.
Yeah.
And seeing, just before the song was even out, seeing kids like scream those lyrics to them is just like crazy. Like, I don't know. They just like kept playing shows and kept getting tighter as musicians, and they're still like a relatively new band. Like, I'm sure they're going to do a lot of cool stuff. And like the band All Talk, that's from Louisville. I could be wrong, but I also think Naraya might have put them on their first show. If not, it was maybe one of their early shows. I'm not sure, but they are all like very young. Like, I think the drummer is like maybe 16 or something. And it's like, I remember seeing Naraya like before they were playing the show, like getting them to like test their levels and stuff.
Yeah.
And like just the times I had seen them, in between like 2 shows or whatever, just progressing is wild and really cool. It's just cool to see different people in new bands, and especially young people doing it.
Yeah. And having the mentors, like I think that's what really stands us apart, like our Louisville apart. Like everybody has their scene and stuff, but we really do have a sense of community where we want to help like the next generation make their band,
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And so shouts out to Naraya for doing that and putting them on some of their first shows, and taking them out on their like first tour as well coming up.
That is true. Yeah.
So,
I saw that. Very excited about that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. It's exciting to see what's happening in the city, and that people are just being more motivated to make those bands. So that is going back to that piece of advice you gave. Just start that band and write that song.
Yeah.
Because you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Just create your art. Don't worry about what other people think.
Definitely.
Like, people will always resonate with what you have to say, and you never know if what the thing you make will help somebody feel a little less alone in their situation or in the world.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the most powerful things about music is like when I was like really young teenager and I started hearing like punk music, and when you're really young, like it's easy to fall into the idea that you're the only person in the world who feels this way. And then when you hear it through music so accurately expressed, so true to your experience, that you feel like less alone in it, because like, oh, this person definitely was going through what I'm feeling, even though you were so like against that idea, previously. It makes you feel less alone, and it makes you feel really close to the artist, and it helps give you motivation, and it's just a sense of community, even like through music. You maybe never will meet this artist, who knows, but they changed your life forever. So absolutely keep doing that. And Seth, thank you so much for coming on and talking. I'm sure we could go for hours, but I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.